Hi everyone, it's Alexis with Project Management Made Simple. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you all 5 traits of a great project manager. Now, before we get started, I do want to share that these are traits that are of my opinion. This is by no means an exhaustive list. These are just things that I have seen in great project managers and I've appreciated in working with other project managers, and traits that I hope to embody myself as a project manager. Number one is being communicative. Great project managers communicate with their project team, with stakeholders. They're able to talk about the plan, go through requirements. They have a good grasp of where the project is at pretty much any given moment, of what the status is. They have an understanding of what the risks and issues are to the plan, and they're able to communicate ways to resolve those risks or issues. They're able to change how they communicate depending on who they're speaking with. So if they're speaking with the project team and they're working with an IT team, then perhaps they need to speak more technical language. If they're speaking with the stakeholders, with the business stakeholders specifically, well, then perhaps they need to change their language to be more about the business process or whatever is pertinent to those business stakeholders. And if we're talking to leadership, well, then we want to be sure to maybe zoom out from the details a bit and give them information on the scope, the schedule, and the budget. So a great project manager is able to communicate across various stakeholder groups, and they're able to tailor their message depending on what that stakeholder group needs to hear. Great project managers are proactive. They take the initiative, they're not afraid to jump in and to ensure that they have all the information that is needed for the project. Projects can easily drag if you do not have a project manager who is willing to step in and to be assertive, to schedule meetings, to send out emails, to ensure that things keep moving along and keep going. More often than not, what I've seen in my experience as a project manager is sometimes there is, I don't want to say a lack of urgency that like all projects need to be urgent, because I think that definitely can be an issue, but there can sometimes, I think, be a challenge for a project manager is balancing all of the activities and when they need to get done, because it's not always the case that, for instance, in a schedule everything comes one after the other. Sometimes things can work in parallel, sometimes things can't work in parallel. And so in those instances, it's important that the project manager is proactive about understanding the project itself, the scheduling, the dependencies, and ensuring ultimately that work is being completed. Number three is that a great project manager is a problem solver. When we're working with projects, we are working with uncertainty, and there are going to be problems that arise, whether those are risks that turn into issues or those are things that we couldn't have foreseen. Being able to move us forward is going to be a trait of a great project manager. Number four is someone who balances details with the bigger picture. Now, I will be the first to say that as a project manager, one of my potential Achilles heel is that I can be quite detail oriented. So in one way, it's great. It's what you need to be a great project manager when you're building out your schedule, when you're building out your plan, when you're problem solving. Being detail oriented can really help you in those situations. But it can also hinder you in situations where you maybe have to zoom out from the details and you have to be able to describe what's going on in your project with just a few words. And typically this happens when you're talking to the project sponsor or you're speaking to leadership, just depending on the nature of your project. If you're just speaking in general, when you're speaking to someone who is further away from the project, then you have to step further away from the details. And as someone who can be quite detail oriented, this is something that I still find myself challenged with every now and then, but it's something that I do my best to keep in mind, that again, as in point number one illustrated, being able to tailor the message that I'm sharing depending on the audience that I'm sharing it with. Point number five is that a great project manager understands the thinking behind project management software. So common project management software is going to be Microsoft Project as well as Jira. Microsoft Project is typically used for waterfall or traditional projects, and Jira is typically used for agile projects. And so in either case, depending on whichever methodology or framework that has been decided to deliver your project, being able to understand which software is going to help you in that, and also being able to understand the thinking behind the software is going to be powerful for you all as well. And what I mean by that is if I'm working on a traditional project, then I'm probably going to run into having a critical path. And so when I'm scheduling out things in my MS project or perhaps in Smartsheet or whatever I'm using to track all of the tasks, then I should have an understanding of where my critical path is, of what items live on my critical path. And that is not always something that our software can automatically do. It's sometimes, in fact, it isn't something that your software will automatically do. You have to understand what it means to have dependencies, different relationships between those dependencies, because all of this will have an implication on what your critical path ends up being. And your critical path tells you what is the longest chain of tasks that need to be completed to complete your project. Now, when we're looking at Jira and we're looking at this through the lens of project management, this is typically used for more agile projects. And with agile projects, most teams I've seen are using either Scrum or they're using Kanban. And so being able to understand what Scrum is, what Kanban is, what Agile is, and also understanding that Jira does not equal Agile, it does not equal project management. It gives you a way to track your work, but using that tool in and of itself does not make a team agile, does not mean that the team is going to be successful at delivering a project. It is hopefully going to be a way to help you do that, but it does not replace the theory, the concepts behind project management, and just everything you need to be able to do to successfully deliver a project. This is a video where I shared to you all 5 traits of what I think characterize a great project manager. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those below. Also, feel free to book me for coaching. I will have a link to my calendar below for you all as well, and I will speak to you all in my next one.